All right, welcome back, YouTube. So right now, what I'm going to share with you is something about how you can optimize your Vue applications. So without further ado, let's go ahead and install Vue application. So I'm just going to go to my desktop, and then I'm going to run Vue create. Let's name this Vue optimization. It's Asian, I can't spell. Alright, so let's just wait for the application to finish installing and then we'll get back to it. Alright, that was quick. And then we'll head to our application here. Alright, so I'm going to open up my um, Visual Studio Code for our editor. And here we go. So, what is this tutorial all about? So, let me give you an overview about what we're going to do here. So basically, I know you guys are having a bunch of helpers in your application, and for you to be able to use that, you would need to like import it. Like let's say, for example, get users, something like that from. Okay, for this moment, let's just say from the main.js file. Okay, so once we have our method, we will then, let's say, for example, have a function that says handle fetch user, something like that. And then we can say something like get users and some code right here, right? So this is actually great, but if you can imagine, if you are going to use this function to your other components, you're going to do the same approach, right? You're going to import the function or the file with its functions or objects. Can you imagine importing this file across your other components just to make use of the functions that the file has? So what if we have a method or a way of setting up all the functions that we need in our applications, and then we can simply call this dot helper dot get users. So we can call our function this way and only import or configure the file once. How cool is that? So that's the approach that we're going to take in this course. But first, let me just remove everything here, get it back to normal, and I'm going to open my terminal. And for this tutorial, I'm going to install Axios to demonstrate how we can optimize or create a helper for our HTTP requests. Right, let us install the Axios package and I'll get back to you once it's finished. Alright, we are done installing Axios. Let me just clear this up. Okay, and I mentioned earlier that we're going to create a helper function for our HTTP requests. So I'm going to create a folder here. I'm going to name it services. Then inside a folder, I'm going to create a HTTP request.js file. Okay, so in this file, we're going to create our functions so that we can make HTTP requests to our backend. For that, I'm going to export default. I'm going to pass the Vue instance. And then from here, I'm going to declare or define a property for our Vue prototype. And the third parameter will be the name of your method. I'm sorry, but your property, the name of your property. All right, so the next thing is the configurations, or what we call the getter for our HTTP requests um, property right here. So I'm going to have a getter that will return a get request, a post request, and last but not least, a delete. Okay, so first we're going to work on our get method. So I wanted this method to be an async so that we can use a wait and try catch inside of it. So I'm going to pass URL and a callback. All right, so basically, um, once we call this get property, we're going to pass the URL for our backend, and a callback will be returned once the request is completed or if we catch an error. So I'm going to return the callback here if we catch an error, and the callback will consist of two parameters. First one will be the error, and the one is the response. So in this case, we're going to return the error, and now for the response or the data. But for here, we're going to say null since our code here is getting the response to our server. So I'm going to say await. Then let's not forget to import our Axios package, just like that. Okay, and then we'll say get to this URL. How cool is that, guys? So with this very tiny piece of code, you can now reuse this function to fetch your data from your backend. Specifically, so for our post, we're still going to use async. And for this one, we're going to pass the URL, the payloads or the data, and then our callback, of course. And since they are pretty much identical, so I'm just going to copy and paste it. And this one should be post with our payloads. Okay. And last would be our delete functionality, but we don't have to include the payloads, just the URL. And this would be a delete request, like so. And missing a curly bracket. All right. So that's it, guys. This is pretty much our application here, or our HTTP request would look like. Say we just imported in our access for the HTTP request, then we are exporting the default. So this will be a function that defines our HTTP request methods are get, post, update, delete. Okay, so since we have that here in our services, I also would like to create a new file, which I would name global imports.js. So our global imports would like bundle up our helpers. Say for example, we have our a helper that um, handles alert messages. You can just simply create that here. Then in our global import, of course, import it. Then we're going to use that in our Vue application. So let me show you how to do that. Just a second. For that, we're going to import Vue again. And from here, I'm going to export a constant name global import, which will be an object that has install property. Make guys, this is important. This is just a very standard procedure if you would like to create plugins in Vue.js. So I'm going to call view.use, and let's not forget to import our HTTP request, right? So we have name, no. So we can say HTTP request from services and HTTP requests. And then we can say view.use HTTP request. Okay, that's pretty much it. But one more thing, before we can use our function here, or global function, you could say, we need to go to our main.js file. Or if you're in Laravel, you would go to app.js file. But in our case, since we're using Vue CLI, we need to go to the main.js file. So in here, we're going to import our name property, which is global import from global imports. And here we're just going to simply say view.use global import. Simple as that. And now we should be able to use the function across any other components that we would like. Let's say, for example, if we have hello.view or whatever components that we have here, hello world.view, we can use what I've told you before, this HTTP request dot get or dot post or dot delete. All right, it's cool, right? So let me just run our server here. All right, everything's done here. Let's go ahead and check our finished product in this URL. Let us open a new tab and paste our link. All right, so it's up and running. So in this example, we're going to go to our JSON placeholder that displays user, and we will try to use our very new created setup so that we can globally call our helper functions. So in this case, I'm just going to create or use created hook, and then I'm going to add data, which should have state for users, which at first is an empty array. And from here, as what I mentioned, we can call our function this way, http request dot get, since this will be a get request. And let me just create a variable for our URL, and that's pretty lit. And our callback should receive an error or response depending on the case. So we're going to have a condition here. Since we're getting the callback, we need to handle the error or the response. So if it has error, we're just going to return, let's say alert, error found, then error that message, since the error has a property name message. And if we don't encounter any error in the application, we just simply want to set our users equal to rest.data. So I'm going to also display the users here just to make sure that to prove that we are getting users from the JSON placeholder server. So we would key this one with user.id, and for a simple case scenario, I'm just going to log the name that we are getting from the user object right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and test it out. And as you can see here, we are able to fetch the data from our or from the JSON placeholder server. So let me go to view, check that out, and we have our 10 users. Cool, right? So, alright, that's it for me, guys, and I hope you learned a lot. Please like the videos and share to your friends, families, and your co-programmers so that everybody will have the idea of how they can optimize things with Vue.js. And that's it. Goodbye for now. See you next time.